I didn't argue when my son-in-law fired me. I just let his new partner take everything. You know, kids, when you get to be my age, you start to measure your life not in dollars, but in moments. The smell of charcoal on a summer evening, the sound of your grandkids laughing in the pool, the feel of your wife's hand in yours after 50 years. For our 50th anniversary, my Eleanor and I, we just wanted those simple things. A backyard full of family, good food, and the gentle hum of happiness. We rented a pavilion at the country club, strung up lights, and I even hired a three-piece band. It was perfect, or so I thought. The betrayal came after the cake was cut. My son-in-law, Mark, the man I'd taken under my wing when he had nothing but ambition and a cheap suit, clinked his glass for a toast. He talked about legacy. He talked about the future, and then with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, he looked right at me and told the entire family that the board of our family business, the hardware supply company I'd started in my garage, had voted. They said I was out of touch, that my methods were sentimental baggage, that to save the company, the dead weight had to be cut. He was firing me from my own company. My daughter Sarah stood beside him, her eyes glued to her shoes, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She knew she'd known, and she said nothing. The silence was colder than a winter well. I looked at my Eleanor, saw the shock and hurt in her face, and that was a pain sharper than any Mark could ever inflict. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, straightened my jacket, took my wife's hand, and we walked out. I could feel the stares on my back, a mixture of pity and horror. I drove home in the rain, the swish of the wipers the only sound in the car. The man I'd treated like a son had not just stolen my company. He'd stolen my dignity in front of everyone I loved. But here's the thing about us old-timers. We don't keep our cards in our hand. We keep them in a safety deposit box. And as the initial sting faded, a memory, clear as day, surfaced. It was from 15 years ago, when we'd moved the business from that old garage to our first real commercial property. The landlord was a cantankerous old cuss, and I wanted stability. So I didn't just lease a building. I bought it, through a separate LLC, just for me. I'd paid off the mortgage a decade ago. The company, Harold's Hardware Supply, didn't own the building it operated from. I did. Mark, in all his modern business savvy, had never once thought to check the property deed. He was so focused on the shiny things, the inventory, the client list, the brand, he forgot about the ground it was all built on. I met with my old friend and lawyer, Bill Henderson, the next morning. "Bill," I said, sipping my black coffee, "I think it's time for a change in our tenant situation." He listened, his eyes twinkling behind his spectacles as I laid it out. The plan was simple, legal, and utterly poetic. We wouldn't fight Mark for control of the company. We'd just evict it. But we'd do it in a way that let Mark hang himself with his own rope. The revenge unfolded over the next month. Mark, emboldened by his coup, went on a spending spree. He leased a new BMW, bragged about a fancy expansion plan at the family 4th of July BBQ, and even started talking to a silent partner, investor to buy out the rest of the family shares. I heard all this through the grapevine, from my other daughter, God bless her. I just nodded and smiled. I let him get good and comfortable on his throne. The final act was set for the Labor Day picnic Mark and Sarah were hosting. I arrived alone, Eleanor choosing to spare herself the drama. The air was thick with the smell of grilled meat and false cheer. Mark held court by the grill, a king in an apron. "Harold!" He boomed a little too loudly. "So glad you could make it. I was just telling everyone about our new investor. We're going to revolutionize the industry." I just smiled.
Is that so? I'd love to meet him. Right on cue, a sleek black sedan pulled up. Out stepped a man in a sharp, conservative suit. It was Bill Henderson's nephew, a sharp young real estate developer I'd approved for the role. Mark puffed out his chest. "Everyone, this is Mr. Evans, our new partner." Mr. Evans shook a few hands, then turned to me. "Mr. Harold," he said with a respectful nod. Then he turned to Mark.
"Mr. Jenkins, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. My client is very excited about the potential of this property." Mark looked confused. "The company's potential, you mean?" "No, sir," Mr. Evans said, his voice clear and carrying across the suddenly silent backyard. "The property. The building and the land it sits on. My client, Harold Family Holdings, LLC, has accepted our offer to purchase the asset, free and clear. The 30-day eviction notice for your company, which we served to your office last week, is now in effect. You have until the end of the month to vacate." The color drained from Mark's face. "What? That's impossible." "I never got any notice. It was sent by certified mail and delivered to the front desk." Mr. Evans said calmly, "I have the receipt. My client also instructed me to inform you that any attempt to remove company assets from the premises before the official inventory is completed will be considered theft." The silence was deafening. All the relatives were staring, their plates forgotten. Mark sputtered, his empire crumbling in the space of a single conversation. He turned to me, his eyes wide with a mixture of fury and terror. You old fox, you knew I never owned the building."
I finally spoke, my voice quiet but firm. "I did, Mark. You were so busy trying to be the king. You never thought to ask who owned the castle. You wanted me out so you could run the company your way. Well, son, now you can. You just have to find someplace else to run it from." The social and financial collapse was total. His silent partner vanished. The bank called in his lines of credit. The expansion was dead. He was left with a company he couldn't house, massive debt, and a reputation in tatters. My daughter Sarah finally saw the man she'd married for the hollow. Greedy figure he was, she left him a month later. I sold the building for a small fortune, more than enough for Eleanor and me to live out our days in peace. The rest I put into a trust for my grandchildren, safe from Mark's reach. He learned the hard way that respect isn't given with a title. It's earned with character. If you've ever been underestimated, remember, kindness isn't weakness. It's the smartest revenge there is. And if you think that was wild, wait till you hear what happened. When my cousin tried to use my own grandchildren to get his hands on my lake house,